Now, I encourage the doctors that I work with, as well as patients, not to stop their medications right away. That's the worst thing you could do, no matter if they're on toxic medications like Xanaflex, which has already killed 12 people. I'm really down on Xanaflex. It's the drug du jour in the rheumatology circles for fibromyalgia. I just point blank don't like it. It doesn't put a person in deep sleep and has numerous side effects. It's a muscle relaxer. If you're going to use a muscle relaxer, use Flexeril, for heaven's sake. But even if a patient is on some of these toxic medications, like the medications that help them with sleep that don't put them in deep restorative sleep, like benzodiazepines, Ativan, Xanax, Klonopin, those medications don't put them into delta wave sleep. They knock them out, but they're not making deposits in their stress coping savings account, so they never get better. And they have a whole litany, a whole list of side effects associated with them. But even if they're taking those, I still encourage patients and the doctors I work with not to take them off their prescription medications in the beginning. Why? The reason is these people have been on so much stress. That's why they got the illness. It's incredibly stressful to come off these medications, and many of these medications have withdrawal symptoms associated with them. I have some patients it takes up to 6 months to get off benzodiazepines like Xanax because the withdrawal symptoms are so horrendous. Even Effexor and Zoloft may take 2 to 3 months. So the worst thing you do is start yanking them off these medications. What you want to do is start getting them healthier, getting them feeling better. So along with the 5-HTP, you want to put them on a comprehensive multivitamin regimen. But once they start going into deep restorative sleep, what you'll see is in a matter of weeks, these people will feel better than they felt in years. Irritable bowel in my practice goes away in 2 weeks. You know, the Zelnorm, which is a 5-HTP inhibitor, which the potential side effects of Zelnorm are ischemic colitis, which the colon actually swells up and shuts off, and these people explode on the inside. Sounds pretty gross, right? It is. It is. Irritable bowel is an easy thing. If you get their serotonin level up, these people feel better literally in 2 weeks than they felt in years. Their pain is reduced. Their moods start to improve. They start to lose their fibro fog. But now, along with the 5-HTP, you need to go much more in depth with your nutraceuticals. Because these people, as I said earlier, they're bankrupt. They've also not only have bankrupt stress coping savings account, they have bankrupt adrenals. So one of the things you'll find is if you do an orthostatic blood pressure test on these folks, you'll see that when you take their blood pressure lying down, their systolic pressure may be 120. And then when they stand up, what normally should happen in a healthy individual, your systolic pressure should go up 10 points, so it should go to 130. That's a sign that the adrenal glands are releasing norepinephrine and other chemicals to allow enough blood and oxygen and nutrients to get to the brain and muscles so that when you stand up, you don't get dizzy and fall over. With fibromyalgia, what you're going to find, and the majority of the people that you're working with chronic illness are going to have low adrenal function. When you do the orthostatic pressure test, what you'll see is when they go to stand up, instead of going the systolic jumping 10 points, it's going to drop 10 points. And those people have low adrenal function. You've got to repair the adrenal glands in these folks or you won't get anywhere, because this is what happens. Now, in my practice, in the medical practice that I had, one of the things that we started doing right off the bat was IV therapy, intravenous therapy. So we used high dose. I look like John Travolta up here, this thing on button. If I button this, am I still mic'd up? Or yeah, I got 6 chest hairs. I mean, am I still okay back there? Yeah? All right. Okay. So I better button that up. So what we see with low adrenal function is that, I'm talking about intravenous IV therapy. With intravenous IV therapy, what we saw is if we used high-dose vitamin C, magnesium, B vitamins, all the things that we've all learned about integrated medicine, we got really pretty quick results in pain reduction, mood disorders improved, fatigue levels dropped, energy levels increased. However, what we found was this. If we didn't repair their adrenal glands, these people would crash. And that'll happen also if, when you're using 5-HTP, you're getting them into deep sleep. And I really can't go into detail about that. Maybe we'll do that if we have time for question and answers about what do you do when 5-HTP doesn't work. And maybe I should bring that up real quick, because you're going to sit there and be thinking about that tonight, right? The rest of the day. Well, what you want to do is you always want to start with 5-HTP because they've got a serotonin deficiency. Once you build that up, if they're still not sleeping, then and only then do you want to use melatonin. You don't want to jump to melatonin before you use 5-HTP. It'd be the worst thing you could do. But if you're using 5-HTP and they're still not sleeping, then you want to start using melatonin. And the protocols in my doctor's manual go into detail about that, and even in the patient books. Okay, so what we found was this. If we got a patient sleeping through the night, they felt better than they felt in years. If we used intravenous vitamin and mineral therapy, they felt better than they felt in years. But this is what happens for these folks. They wake up one morning after sleeping through the night, and they've actually got some energy. And so they replant the back 40. They paint the house. They volunteer to wash the neighbor's car. They go grocery shopping and buy enough gifts for the next 30 years because, you know what, this could be the last day. This could be it. It could be the only day that they ever feel good enough to do anything. And so they overdo it, right? They crash. And what we found is we had to rebuild the adrenal function because they have no stress coping ability. They have no resiliency, no stamina. When they got under stress, their symptoms flared. So they would do this, doing great, Dr. Murphy, I'm doing great. And then Aunt Betty from Arkansas would call them at 9 o'clock at night, give them some bad news, and bam, they crash. So the adrenal function is very, very important. I use adrenal cortex. It's a glandular. That's what I like. In the medical practice, we use Cortef. Since I sold my medical practice, I've had to become a better doctor. Because in the medical practice, we could be a little bit lazy sometimes and use prescription medications to help these people along until we got them healthier. As a chiropractic physician, nutritional specialist, I don't have 3 medical doctors now to boss around. I mean, I don't have prescription medications anymore. So what my research showed me when I went back 3 years ago and started doing this all naturally was that the original thing they used for adrenal gland repair, even Addison's disease, which is adrenal failure, was adrenal glandulars, which come from pigs. And so that's what I'm using, adrenal cortex. I don't use whole glandular adrenal formulas because I'm worried that if we do that, and as you probably know, there's 2 glands. There's the medulla and there's the cortex. In the medulla, we have norepinephrine, adrenaline, right? So a lot of times what will happen is if you try to use whole glandular on these folks, it'll rev them up too much. It's too much for them. But if you just use the cortex, which is cortisol and DHEA, what you'll see is they'll start building up their stress coping savings account. With adrenal cortex glandular, you're not going to get weight gain. You're not going to get suppression of the immune system. You're not going to get water retention. All the things associated with prednisone and other prescription medications, which are, incredibly strong steroids. You won't see that in your practice unless you have someone that's very, 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 very sensitive. So I start my patients off taking adrenal cortex.